And we think the audio is good tonight?
We hope so.
Was it
All
not
right.
good?
Yeah, it was a little issue last time with something.
I can actually bounce out to the other room and check.
I mean, whatever you're comfortable
While you
with.
are doing your mayor comments, I can certainly run back if you'd like.
Unless you think he did what he was supposed to do.
We'll find out.
Okay. All right, calling to order the February 17th, 2026 meeting of the Long Lake City Council. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:31 PM. All council members are present this evening with the exception of Councilmember Qualley. First order of business, the second order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now you have to say it on your own.
Right. All right, welcome, welcome. We were waiting. Good timing. All right, so with that, we will move on to item number 3, which is mayor comments, and yeah, all council members are present now. Mayor comments, Long Lake News meeting review and updates. Not a whole lot to report on since we met 2 weeks ago. Yesterday was President's Day, so hope everybody had a nice holiday weekend. City offices were closed. Coming up, a reminder, coming up this Thursday, the 19th, from 5 to 7 p.m. is an open house sponsored by MnDOT at the Wayzata City Hall regarding the upcoming Highway 12 construction project, which is going to have an impact through Wayzata and Minnetonka, and therefore those that are traveling west to get out to Long Lake and parts west. So Thursday, 5 to 7, open to the public, Wayzata City Hall. So besides that, no major updates over the last couple of weeks. Knock on wood, things have been fairly uneventful. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is to approve this evening's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And I should have mentioned at the beginning that we did not have a city council work session tonight. There was nothing to discuss at a work session. Okay, item 5 is the consent agenda, items A through D on the consent agenda this evening. Any questions for staff regarding items on the consent agenda?
Well, it was nice to get some donations for Dell computers, so
Yeah, monitors.
just kind of calling that out.
Fantastic, right?
And just curious, so on the $4,000 for the escrow adjustment, is that a return? Just
It is a return,
Okay.
correct. WSB cost so far had come in much lower than expected, and so I thought it was appropriate to send a majority of the escrow back. We did retain a little bit for when we close out the bond, line of credit, or the bond.
The maintenance bond.
Thank you. The maintenance bond. I kept a little bit on hand for that, but otherwise, it was appropriate to return most of it. The project's completed.
Sounds good. That's all.
All right, any other questions? If not, entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6, open correspondence. Open correspondence is an item on the agenda during which the public may address the city council. No formal action is taken by the city council, and comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less. Open correspondence comments may also be emailed to city staff by noon on the date of the meeting. Any written or submitted open correspondence?
Nothing, thank you.
All right. With that, we'll move on to regular business. 7 regular business, starting with 7A, approve liquor licenses for Palm and Pine Hospitality LLC doing business as San Pancho Restaurante. It's going to be you, Jeanette.
Thank you, Mayor. It is indeed. We have new ownership of San Pancho Mexican Restaurant in town. I should say previously San Pancho Mexican Restaurant. Angel Luna and Finesse Luna of Palm and Pine Hospitality LLC purchased San Pancho back in December and also submitted a complete liquor license application at that time. I have to say it was very thorough and very well put together, so that made it real easy. By the time I received it, everything was great. Background investigation of both the owners has been completed as required by city ordinance. Everything looks, clean and clear there. And the Wayzata Police Department has no objection to the issuance of the licenses as requested, and we are recommending adoption of the attached resolution to approve the liquor licenses tonight. Before we do that, though, I'd love to introduce Mr. Luna to come up and answer any questions you may have as a council about the changes. It will be changing the DBA, so instead of San Pancho Mexican Restaurant, it'll be San Pancho Restaurante, really, because it's got the E on the end, so.
Great, welcome, Mr. Luna.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here, happy to be here and be part of the community, of course. Yeah.
And, it's a slightly changing the name, and I think I was in there last week, I met you, you gave a quick little presentation as far as you want to be more of a community type restaurant.
Yeah, I
and-
think that there was a little bit of concern knowing that we were coming from Sid Smith, that we were going to bring something more high-end and things like that, and that's not correct. We're still going to keep San Pancho as a community restaurant. Our focus is to bring good quality traditional Mexican food. The reason why we removed the Mexican side is because wanted to keep it traditional, Central Mexico, and I think that if sometimes when you put that Mexican word, kind of gets people confused in between Mexican, Tex-Mex, and so and so. So I just wanted to keep it as a restaurant, and then be able to talk about while you're at the table, either with me or the server or anyone else. So yeah. I'm happy to be here. Excited. I moved with my family to Wayzata, Orono area 8 years ago. We work in Wayzata for 12 years. This is the area where we hang out as a family. This is our spot, Red Rooster, San Pancho. And the time that we've been here, we believe that there's a great opportunity to bring some good food and good service for the Long Lake and surrounding community. Yeah.
So
I
will the
did
menu
eat-
be changing a little bit?
What's that?
Will the menu be changing a little bit?
Yeah, so I think San Pancho was a little bit more towards the Tex-Mex. My style cuisine is pretty Central Mexico traditional food. So some of our staples is that we're gonna be making fresh tortillas in house. Everything is fresh and made from scratch. We're gonna bring some. Right now we're all about tacos and some entry items. But menu might evolve later after. We're gonna bring some maybe things to share, small plates, and then for dinner maybe more like entry sides. But again, everything's gonna stay casual serving, just a community restaurant. Yeah.
Well, I
I-
can make a motion. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I did send the council a link actually to the website, so you can take a look at the updated menu and the updated branding, which actually is looking great, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. Yeah.
So if you're interested, you'll find that in your emails, just to take a peek. But yeah, thank you.
Just a couple more things. So I think that, living in the area, it helps my wife and I to understand what the community kind of needs. Everybody knows, right, Sid Smith Cove, Gianni's is a great place to go. Everybody knows that lives in the area knows how busy it gets in the summer and how hard it is to get to those places, right? So I just because I open and run Sid Smith for 12 years, I know those places are more of a destination because there's a lot of people that comes from Minneapolis, out of town, whatever, right? It's so hard for the locals to get to those places sometimes, right, and have some good food. So I think that Red Rooster has done a tremendous job in the last 8 years, but it's still some opportunity for another place or more places that can bring some more good food and good service. So we're thinking eventually add things like brunch, things like maybe coffee and pastries in the morning or at 11. I mean, there's a lot of things that we feel is part of the community that is still missing, and that along with Red Rooster, Box, and all those places that are around the area, we can bring to the community. I mean, I did a little bit of research, and I mean, Long Lake has grown quite a bit in the last year and a half, and I think that there's the demand is there, and I think that all the restaurants that were here, we can definitely fulfill that. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Great. Well, welcome to Long Lake. Great, thanks for
Thank
doing
you,
business
thank you.
here.
We're happy to be here and excited to bring something else to the community. Yeah, sorry, you were gonna say something.
I make a motion to approve the liquor license for Palm and Pine Hospitality LLC doing business as San Pancho Restaurante.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a great evening.
I will reach out tomorrow and we'll start talking details for finalizing paperwork for the state. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, moving on to item 7B, approve a proposal from Capstone Public Sector Solutions for fire service consulting services benefiting the Shoreline Fire Department under the 2024 Fire Service Planning Grant. Amanda?
Yes, I will take this one. If council recalls, back in 2024, the city of Long Lake worked with the city of Wayzata on applying for a fire service planning grant that would assist in some administrative costs as it applied to fire department efficiencies and service areas. This grant was awarded to the city of Long Lake, and we have until this year to utilize it. So I've started to reach out to some contacts of mine, and I was put in contact with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Strike with Capstone Public Sector Solutions. And I contacted him and explained to him about the grant, explained to him about how far we've come with our JPA, with Shoreline Fire Department, and also our desire to continue to work with neighboring communities on finding better ways to serve our community and any cost sharing that might be available. Mr. Strike informed me that he had extensive experience in this field. He's worked with multiple JPAs and independent fire departments across the state and felt that he could really bring a lot to the Shoreline Fire Department and the Wayzata Fire Department. So today I'm asking council to approve us entering into an agreement with Mr. Strike with the Capstone Public Sector Solutions and authorize myself to execute this agreement, and then to use the fire service planning grant funds that the city of Long Lake has received for these services. I have talked to the Shoreline Fire Board. They are supportive of this, and they have also agreed to pay the $4,000 match that would be required with the grant. So the Shoreline Fire Department is willing to pay that.
So there's no cost to the city?
There would be, correct.
Well, directly.
One
anyway.
question I have about that,
Absolutely.
because it does match up, like, we get the $4,000 grant, or the $40,000 grant. We've got the $4,000 from the Shoreline Fire Department, so that equals $44,000. But in a B, C, there might be some additional costs because they're not rolled into it. So we would be on the hook for those additional costs because the consultant will bill the client at IRS standard mileage, mileage and other pre-approved reimbursements are in addition to not to exceed amounts unless the parties expressly agree in writing.
Correct. One thing I should mention too, I've spoken with John Thames today a little bit. There are some changes, some minor tweaks we might be making to the agreement.
Okay.
However, one thing that you're noticing in that agreement is originally when he gave us a quote, it was for $30,000 in services. And I told him that I felt like there was still a lot of opportunities in the areas, and I didn't want it to be capped at 30,000
Okay.
if our grant was for 40, and he felt like there were other areas. And so that's where he added additional information about possible.
But you could also put those expenses in the 40 ceiling so that
Yeah.
we don't
Correct. Yeah, and that's
exceed-
that's what I told him. I said,
Okay, so that language
yes,
of potentially additional costs should be capped
not
at
to
40.
exceed 40,000.
Yeah.
Correct. And I will be working with John Thames a little bit. Him and I had a conversation today as far as one other area that he just wanted to tweak a little bit. Like I said, it wouldn't change the integrity of the agreement. It was very mild. But yes, I will make sure that we make note that it would to not exceed $40,000.
So this, one other question I have is work product and intellectual property. And so the consultant grants us a non-exclusive, royalty-free license to use the deliverables. Now, I guess what I would say, that's great, we have a license to use what we paid for, but shouldn't we own what we pay for? And I kind of would push for owning what we paid for.
This is one of the items that John Thames and I were talking about. We're not,
Okay.
if you recall, we're not buying software or any
Yeah.
such item in this situation. It would, Mr. Strike offers consulting services. He offers, it would be more of a consulting service thing where
Yeah.
there wouldn't be anything necessarily tangible that we're going to be leaving with other than any reports that he might give us. And that is actually an area that is the area that John wanted to make sure
Okay.
that we addressed.
That we own that.
That we own, yes.
But it's very clear in this agreement that certain things that are his and just standard for other clients are his. And
Correct.
we can't use that, but,
It
Correct.
says, though, that the client will own the final report in B.
Yes, and John, that was one of the areas that Mr. Thames was mentioning today. He wanted to clarify that because it's services we're looking at and we're not purchasing, for instance, a software, that we understand that any services or any items that he uses to generate these reports are not the property of the city of Long Lake, but that we would then have complete rights to everything. that's
Deliverables.
Deliverables, yes.
That he produces.
What
Correct.
is
Is
it?
this,
Or
we're not
us
gonna own his
specifically.
laptop or his
Is-
Microsoft.
yeah. But everything he
report
delivers
made-
to
But we
us
own the
under the
documents.
agreement that he
Yes.
creates
Got it.
for us.
Is there an actual
Sense.
list of deliverables?
Not at
Or is
this
that to be
point.
determined?
Pretty much, yes, because I have asked him, so Mr. Strike will be meeting now with, after talking with him, I met with Wyzetta, with Aurora from Wyzetta, and kind of made sure that this was an area that she felt comfortable with, because I do know that they were a large part in obtaining this grant. And her and I have agreed that once we get all the approvals situated, then we will probably be passing this off to both fire chiefs of the city of Wyzetta and Shoreline. And they will then work with Mr. Shrike to design best practice in most beneficial areas. And so he was keeping it kind of broad in this situation, so we could have both the board approval and the council approval. But once he meets with the fire chiefs, then they will determine a plan of action.
If I could make a suggestion
Yes.
too, when we do reach the point of making a motion, I'd suggest on the first motion that we add the phrase, "subject to final amendments by the city attorney," at the very end of it. Helpful, thank you.
And John's kind of realizes the ceiling cap is something that is pretty easy fix, and also too, that we own whatever final report so that it can be freely,
Correct, yes, correct.
Because
And he
it's-
wanted to just get a little bit of clarification on that.
okay. Because the next paragraph says, I know I'm probably repeating myself, anything uniquely created as, not as a city-specific work product, he owns.
Correct.
And so that's clear, it's the other one that,
And
John had a
like I
problem
said,
with
in
as
this
well.
situation, it's going to, well, that, and there was an area in there where it talked about, it was up for interpretation, or if the data delivered
yeah,
was, and he wanted to make a little bit of cleanup for that as well. And
Okay.
so, yes, I did ask John, I said, the changes that you're recommending, do you think that they're necessary to go back and table this? And he said no. He said, it's a pretty straightforward agreement. It's for consulting services, so a lot of things in consulting are gonna be up for interpretation as far as whether we find them beneficial or not. We're getting someone's opinion. That's what we're paying for, is
Yeah.
their opinion, and so.
So we need to, the grant, we need to get this done by June. Do we have to get all the services by June, or can we set up the contract and then use it beyond that?
I've been trying to work with the representatives of the grant. I think right now we are going to be paying for his services up front, and Long Lake will have to pay for that and then submit reimbursement. But it may be a timely situation where once it's determined what services he's gonna provide. Mr. Strike is set to come to the next Shoreline Board meeting, and the city of Wayzata has been invited to that as well, to give a presentation. And so I'm thinking that we are gonna pay for it within the timeline, and if his services exceed the timeline, then it's just a reimbursable.
Yeah, I'd say we pay for it within the timeline, but not prepay the whole thing. I mean,
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. We'll make sure that things have already been
I think
established.
the money has to be
and-
spent by June.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
So you guys have had discussions about this, the fire board and
yeah,
boards?
it was
on-
received really well, I think, by the other members of the board. And so there was really no issues that I saw.
Terrific. All
So
right.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for Capstone Public Sector Solutions for Fire Service Consulting and to authorize the city administrator to execute the agreement, subject to amendments by our city attorney.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And
I'll make a
Same
motion
one?
to approve the use of 2024 Fire Service Planning Grant Funds for consulting services provided by Capstone Public Sector Solutions for the Shoreline Fire Department. Is that also subject to,
We're good there.
okay.
Thank you.
What was that presentation?
It's in early March. I can,
Oh, at the
I can let
fire board
council know.
meeting?
I believe it's March 11th. It's a
Oh, yeah,
Wednesday.
it's open meeting, right? So
Yeah.
It
we
is.
don't need to notice that, do we?
We do if you have a quorum.
quorum of the Long Lake City
Yeah,
Council.
it's open.
Probably, yeah.
I did verify, and we might do it just to be careful, I did verify that if any city council members attend in the audience and do not participate in any of the conversations, that we would be, if it were to happen, then we're okay, but just as
just
you know,
notice
that
it either
no
way.
I would notice it as a quorum
Yes.
notice. just
We're
to- that a
usually
quorum may be
error, yeah.
present.
Yeah, do that, just.
Right.
I'm on the side of caution with that
Yes,
one.
please.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I'll second. You got a second?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Fight over that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, Amanda. We've had that grant for a year or two now, so it's good to have it, be able to utilize it, especially now that Shoreline Fire is up and running.
Yes, I'm very, very excited for what comes of it.
Yeah, nice job. Okay, moving on to item 7C, approve the Greater Lake Minnetonka Area Legislative Coalition cost-sharing proposal for legislative representation. Did you want to start this off, Jeanette, or you want me to do the whole thing, or what are you thinking?
I think I'll defer to you, but I will make this one note in advance. You're going to see that the motion there that we're recommending this evening is a little wordy, but it does represent all of what the group is asking for. It's asking for looking at a cost-sharing proposal, participating, authorizing participation in the coalition and kind of formalizing that. And then, so the motion actually is representative of what the background was requesting participating cities to do tonight, so.
All right, thank
With
you.
that, I will defer to the gentleman who knows the most, Randy Minor.
Yeah, just a little background information. I think all of you have mentioned this 2 or 3 times before over the last couple of months, that this has been sort of in the works, and now we're getting to the point where they would like cities to pass resolutions about it. The concept is we have a lot of similarities when it comes to Lake Minnetonka communities, when it comes to our housing, our demographics, our issues that we face, infrastructure issues that we face. And is there a way to bring us together in kind of a cohesive coalition to get more resources for our area and to lobby for our needs that we have as kind of unique communities here in western Hennepin County? So there's really 3 premises behind this. They're laid out in front of you there, but protecting local controls over municipal functions, particularly zoning and land use regulations. Now that is tied to, there's other groups working on this as well, like the League of Minnesota Cities, and a lot of pushback as to what's statutory proposals that have occurred over the last couple of years when it comes to zoning issues and intensities and controls that some legislation would put into place. That's been pushed back on, but it'll continue to come up, but eventually there's probably going to be some sort of workable solution for that cities are amenable to. So this lobbying effort would speak on our behalf when it comes to that. Secondly, regional infrastructure. A number of our cities in our area have infrastructure needs. We're certainly one of them when it comes to roads and sewers and water. Several other cities are experiencing the same issues, but we tend to kind of get to be on the bottom of the list for those needs. So this effort would aim to address that. And then property tax reform. This is probably not, doesn't impact our city as much as some of the other cities involved, but some of the other cities have been getting, 20% increases, for example, in their county portion of their property taxes over the last couple of years, and so they're, they're paying in a lot, and, arguable as to whether or not they're getting some return on the investment when it comes to those taxes that they're paying. So the goal would be to get support to see if, when it comes to that third one, to see if there's any way to maybe provide some sort of property tax reform for some areas in our community or cities in our community. There's 9 communities so far that are part of this. It's listed below. There's a couple that were initially going to be a part of it and have since decided not to. One is Minnetrista and one is actually Orono. They voted on this last week or a week or two ago. I think Mayor Tunheim was the only one that voted in support of it. I think there were some concerns about it not being in their budget, but they did have the cost share formula resulted in them paying quite a bit more. I think it was around $10,000, where ours is $1,927 currently. And same with Minnetrista. I heard from the Minnetrista mayor concerns about the cost to their city. But the amount did decrease since I last brought this up. The lobbying firm, which is Wayzata-based, did reduce their overall costs in the proposal since in the last just a couple of weeks. And the prime person here is from Carnival Burns. He's an attorney based out of Wayzata, and he was a state representative years ago, and also on the Wayzata City Council, and has quite a few connections in the legislature. So this is just kind of getting it started this year with this legislative session. We'll see where that takes us, and if there's a desire to have it continue on in further years. And the city of Deep Haven has graciously agreed to administer the contract with the law firm. Initially it was going to be Orono, but when they backed out, then Deep Haven stepped up. And this is mostly being led by the mayor of Deep Haven, and co-led, I would say, by the mayor of Wayzata. All right. With that being said, any other questions about this one or materials that you've read?
So quick question, so the question is what they're advocating for, it seems generally aligned with what we would want, and but there's no oversight, the oversight is just with the city of Deep Haven. It seems like there was I'm just kind of speaking out loud, there was a proposal for a JPA in terms of like having sort of a board or something to kind of just steer what, and vote on what the actual down the road issues that we're commenting on. It seems like this is probably a preliminary step because the issues are very narrow, but when they get kind of broader, is that something that would be part of a JPA? My biggest concern is it goes off track and they start advocating for things that really Long Lake doesn't want to advocate for.
Right, yeah, that's been brought up, absolutely. And this is, for this year, these are the 3 things. So there's really no other, no other items that should be brought up. We kind of agreed on that as the mayors that we met to discuss this, that we're starting here, see where that takes us next year. We can always set up a system to have more, dive off into some other areas, but for now, this is going to be these are the 3 main
like an
focuses.
oversight board that says, yes, I agree to do this, I agree to do that.
Right, yeah, we didn't have, there's not a huge structure involved in setting up that I'm aware of at least, setting up chair, vice chair, and that kind of thing to oversee it. It's mostly going to be the city of Deep Haven overseeing the JPA, because not every JPA has, we have like a fire board, which is obvious, or the Shoreline Fire, but not every JPA has like a board behind it per se. There's lots of, JPAs out there that don't always have a board associated with them, so.
So you feel pretty comfortable that the issues are narrow and that you feel like you can approach the people doing, City of Deep Haven, you could approach them and say, kind of what is it that you're advocating for if things go off the rails?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, right. And I don't foresee that, but yeah, if it were to come up, that's not going to be a problem. We've discussed that it needs to be cohesive. We can't just go off and have one city say, hey, I want it I want this and that kind of thing. It's got to be a joint consensus.
How often do you meet with all of these mayors?
It has not been a regular scheduled meeting. There's been, I think, 4 meetings total. I think I've been able to make 2 of them, and it's been about once a month on average, but not like a set, date and time or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is sort of just for this legislative session?
This initial agenda item, right, and then we would have to agree to pay to continue on rolling into next year.
Okay.
Essentially, this is sort of the pilot episode of a new series to see.
Right.
And so, do I understand Orno's not participating?
Not this year, right? It may be something they look at next year. And it's sort of like, it's a fine line because, if you're not paying but you're getting benefits from it, I mean, that's the, nice part there's so many cities involved, and yeah, we'll see where that takes us next year if they decide to join or not. It'd be great if they did. But that's for them to decide, obviously.
I think it's great that we're coordinating our messaging for all of the communities.
Yeah, I agree. It's really good to have these kind of partnerships that we've learned with fire, strengthen numbers, and our understanding is the legislators will be more likely to listen. And this could be at the county level as well, county level as well, and they're more likely to listen to us if we're 9 cities versus 1 city. So that'll be good to have that. All right, unless there's any other questions, I'll entertain a motion on this one. Or I'll make the motion, actually, because it's so loud, or so long. Yeah, this is my punishment, okay. It's a long one. Motion to authorize the city's participation in the Greater Lake Minnetonka Area Legislative Coalition to approve cost sharing and a proposal from Carnival Burns, PA to provide legislative representation for the coalition with the City of Long Lake share of the expense at approximately $1,927, and to direct staff to work collaboratively with the city administrator of the City of Deep as the coalition's designee.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. Okay, item 7D is the appointment of a Human Resources Subcommittee members. Who wants to kick this one off?
It's up to you.
Uh-oh.
I'm happy
Flip a
to.
coin?
You started out.
When the council met at your first organizational meeting earlier this year, we went through the list of city appointments, but did not appoint any members to the Human Resources Subcommittee at that time. The committee had only met very briefly, and, just on one occasion. And so we really weren't sure that we were going to see this as something that would be an actively needed board for this year. However, that was a bit of an oversight probably on my part, because we've been working on, an employee handbook and a complete overhaul based on the league model and taking into account so many new, ESST, Minnesota Paid Leave, all these new laws and new policies out there that, reflect current use of technology too, among other things. And that handbook is getting closer to being a draft deliverable. And I think it is, we probably should have and would love to ask council to appoint members to reestablish that Human Resources Subcommittee tonight, because I think that subcommittee will really have a role in working through that. We also have had, some turnover at the administration, turnover and change at the administration and public works levels, and there may be other opportunities for an HR subcommittee to meet related to that as well. So just apologizing for the shortfall on my part and not requesting it be appointed earlier. But yes, I think we would be looking for 2 council members to be appointed tonight, as well as appointing the city administrator and myself to the subcommittee, so we can all work together on some of these things, especially as we get into the handbook.
And
Feldman and Newcomer were,
I nominate.
previous.
See how that works? I don't have an issue with that at all. I'll do it, yeah. I mean, if,
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. And yeah, number one, well, let me back up a step. So when the no specific commitment, as needed basis isn't like once a month or once a week or anything like that, just
As
as needed.
needed basis, I think is what we're thinking, and it would really probably be, I'm guessing, kicked off by the handbook unless.
Yeah, we have
That's-
some city staff reorganizations and such that I just want to work with the HR committee on, making sure that all city staff are appropriately titled and compensated. Obviously, the HR committee would then be working on making sure that I am, as a new city administrator, am also being held to the standards of the
standard.
city council. And so I think that I would almost like to see it on a regular basis, maybe more than as needed, but that's something that we would work through, is just trying to re-identify what it looks like, what our new reorganization looks like, and what council would like to see from city staff and vice versa, if there's anything we can be doing differently. So I think it's a really good opportunity. And I think Jeanette's taking too much blame, because I also was telling her, we don't need this committee. And then actually, as more and more things have come up and some brainstorming, I think it would be nice to have some other perspectives other than just Jeanette and I trying
Yeah.
to make these decisions.
It's common for city councils to have this type of subcommittee, so that would be good. All right. And I would propose that, I know, even though Councilmember Feldman would love to fulfill his duties there, that both he and Councilmember Dybek are plenty busy this year with fire related JPA board that they're on. So I would look to maybe the rest of the three of us to fill in the gap there, and that's great if you're willing to do that. You think that would work with your schedule and everything? Councilmember
I'd be
Newcomer?
willing to do it, but I don't want to overstep if you love it.
I think you'd be really good with that attorney, bringing your attorney hat to this and all that. I mean, I'm certainly willing to help out, but if you're willing to do it, that would be good. And I mean, assuming that you're okay with that.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I've spent a lot
Okay.
of time in HR and in the principal's office, so. I'm comfortable in that environment, yeah.
Okay.
Time on each side of it.
Both sides, yeah, well versed, yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint Councilmember Newcomer and Councilmember Qualley, the city administrator, and the city clerk to the Human Resources Subcommittee for 2026.
I'll second that. All right, appreciate you too. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries
Well, you were
unanimously.
quick on that, John.
It was.
I have a basketball game to get to.
I don't want you to change your mind. All right, well, we are moving along here. So item 8, other business. Councilmember Newcomer.
Nothing really. I'd like to have a shout out to Kelly Grady for her organization of the lake event. I participated in it. I know there's a number of us I think
right.
there, but no matter what side of the fence you stand on, that was a great community event. Raised a considerable amount of money and was just good camaraderie for a good cause and a beautiful sunny day out on the lake. So I would just like to compliment her on the effort that she put into that.
Thank you. I actually meant to mention that, address that during my mayor comments, but I neglected to do that. So thank you for bringing that up. That was a great and well-organized event.
Yeah, the pictures turned out pretty well. That was pretty interesting. I don't know if everybody's seen that or not.
Yeah,
They're
drone
pretty amazing.
footage. Yeah, it was a great turnout. All right, Councilmember Feldman.
I guess a couple fire things that when the board met, we did discuss interviewing attorneys and whatnot. So there was somebody that John Paskowitz is now seated and firing it up there, but they're moving ahead on getting an attorney, and then the next big thing is IT over there. So we had a meeting this morning, and we're working through what exists out there and what the requirements are. And I think right now there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had on what is needed versus what is wanted. So we'll get to the bottom of it, but yeah. Is there any other fire stuff on there, John, that?
Any rebranding take effect yet on their trucks?
They're
or-
still working on finalizing the logo. And, yeah, then they're gonna start rebranding the trucks and equipment.
I did see a boot hockey shoreline fire department jersey today,
Oh, you
so
did?
they got some of those, but
Good.
yeah, so I think they're gonna go through, they're doing a small truck,
Stages.
like a command vehicle or something first, just to make sure everything works. But, yeah, the discussion on the logo is how much detail there is and can you embroider it and whatnot. But,
Lessons we've learned the hard way when we went through our logo design process is that you really do have to think about how it will translate to black and white,
Yeah,
how it will print on a black and white copier, not just, turn
Color.
into a black and white line art. And yes, embroidery 100%. And at the same time, maybe not including one city or the other's elements, if you have the Orono Reeds, you need a Long Lake element. So,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot there.
Yep, so that's coming along. And then the email addresses are still, those are kind of lagging, but I think that's related to the IT question. So you're still emailing people at the old
Long
email
Lake
addresses. Yeah, so
Takes
that'll,
a while to go away.
yeah, it's moving in the right direction, but there's a lot of pieces, so.
Okay.
Yep.
A
All
lot
right,
of
Councilor-
details.
Yeah. Councilman Dybek.
So a couple of months ago, the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District revealed shared a plan that they have for water quality in the watershed, not just the Long Lake, but the broader watershed. And that was that meeting that they had at Orono City Hall, which was well attended. And it's a multi-year plan. In fact, I think they're executing some of it right now on County Road 6. But there's other plans that they have that should help to reduce the phosphorus and other TMDLs that flow into the lake and to the broader, not just our lake, but the other lakes as well. And so, but during that discussion, somebody brought up alum treatments, and from their perspective, that was sort of the thing you do at the end. And once you have reduced the amount of stuff going into the lake, then you can take care of what's in the lake. And there was a group of people that didn't necessarily agree with that, myself included. We think that you can do a parallel approach, because otherwise, it's going to be a long time before we see any improvement to the lake quality. And so the Lake Association partnered, or not partnered, but invited Lake Restoration to a meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, and it was attended by members of the Lake Association, as well as representatives from Medina and Orono, and then myself from Long Lake. And the person there from Lake Restoration shared what he saw as being a potential project that could be done in Long Lake that would improve the water quality significantly, and also then remove it from the impaired waters list, because they've done that on other lakes. And I'm not going to go, I have this presentation, maybe I'll send it to you, Jeanette, and then you can share it.
That'd be great.
But what I asked the Watershed District, or the Lake Association, is if somebody could come and present it to us, because I was really impressed. I learned a lot that I didn't know. Like, for example, when some people were quoting numbers of what it would cost, they were using the whole area of the lake, and you don't do the whole area of the lake necessarily. You do those areas of the lake that are more than 15 feet deep, because, and I learned a lot of new terms like anoxic, where where the oxygen is almost non-existent or very low, below 15 feet. And those are the conditions that release the phosphorus from the lake bottom. And so that's where you really want to apply this alum treatment. And so the area that you're covering is actually a lot less than the total area of the lake. So instead of 280 acres, you're probably applying it to less than 100 acres. And so, and he was recommending there would be first an engineering study to sort of go further, although he had done quite a bit. He had maps of our lake and talked about what he recommended based on what he knows. And that would be to do two applications instead of one full dose to like half doses, and it kind of is more effective because it lasts longer. And by the way, the studies or the other lakes that they've done show that if it's done right, an alum treatment can last 10 to 20 years. And so there'd be a big benefit to the lake and its usability and its draw for other people, to come to Long Lake, because especially after this last summer, I mean, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
As bad as I've ever seen it. And who knows, maybe it won't be as bad this year, but maybe there's cycles in that. But so just to throw out the numbers that he said this could potentially cost, it's a lot, but it's not as much as I thought it would be. But it was 200 between 200 and, like he said, up to 294,000. But he thought it could be even as little as 150,000 with the engineering and then the first phase. So, and that's a lot of money. And I know that, Long Lake certainly isn't going to pay for that, the city of Long Lake, I mean. But, we talked about grants that could be an option. There have been grants that have, Bowser grants that have been awarded for other lakes. In fact, they were giving some other examples like Big Swan. I don't know where that is, but they said that the effect was immediate. They do that Secchi disc, where you see how far you can see through the lake, and it would like immediately go from like 3 feet to 15 feet or something. So it's a really dramatic change. And so anyway, so we didn't talk a lot about how one would fund this kind of thing, but the Lake Association is interested in pursuing it, and I'm interested in seeing if we can get some traction on grants or and in addition to that, if the cities of Long Lake and Orono would participate, to what level, I don't know. And then maybe even Medina, because Medina is interested in, because of the impact to the broader watershed that they're part of. And then, there can also be in addition to that, I had thought it might be, but again, because they only have to target that specific area where the phosphorus smaller area. But so I said here but I'd like them to come and present this and plans they have and expectations that they have,
Who would you like us to reach out to schedule that? Who would be the primary point of
Jane
contact?
Davidson, probably.
Jane? Okay.
Yeah.
We can reach
And I
out
know,
to her.
I know that right now, we budget 5,000 a year for lake-related things, right? Which dent in that. But then I thought, well, what if we looked at our, a 10-year contribution, for example, just to pick a number, that's $50,000 over 10 years. Might that, and then if Orono, and if we're 1/3 of the lake and Orono's 2/3 of the lake, and would they contribute their percentage, and again, I haven't thought any.
Minnehaha watershed. They're long-
Because they have their long-term plan, and they didn't see this as being something that would be part of their plan until like they said, until they've solved the runoff into the lake. I wouldn't expect that they would be part of this. Although, having said that, I know that some of the other lakes that have been done through grants, the grants were actually provided to the watershed district of those lakes. It wasn't the Minnehaha Creek, but
I think Bowser grants, there may need to be some level of MCWD support.
Right,
or-
so maybe you're right, Deirdre, that we would have to get that involved, but they wouldn't be directly funding it.
Right.
But the grant might have to go through them.
Right.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
The Lake Association too, they really do have a unique, because we do have an active Lake Association, they have a unique ability to launch things like fundraising, really put that out. And anything like that is something that we can circulate if they were to do that. that on our Facebook page as well. We can put that out, on our listserv and try to help spread the word if that were to occur,
Right.
Any kind of fundraising
Yeah,
campaign,
yeah.
because
And-
we'll see.
And I'm not suggesting any numbers. I shouldn't even throwing a number out there because I really have no idea how it would look. But it would be sort of this multi-pronged funded thing. But, they were talking about, or he was talking about, the engineering part of this, which was 12,000, could start as soon as this summer, and then they could do the alum treatment next year, the first phase, and then the next phase the following year. I don't know if we'd be ready to do it that soon, but I think there was a lot of interest to try to, make our lake more healthy, and like I said, get it off the impaired waters list, and then make it a more inviting lake for visitors to come, and which would benefit our businesses and other things.
And it dumps into Tanager Bay.
It does, yeah.
Any talk of Lake Shore Improvement District? I know it's kind of a taboo word these days, but that's haven't brought up as a lid on Long Lake.
We didn't talk about that, but yeah, certainly the lake shore owners could or should maybe participate in this as well, whether it's through a lid or otherwise.
Donations or,
But there aren't a whole lot of lake owners on the lake. I mean, there's probably, 25 to 30 at the
I
most.
guess, yeah.
So anyway, just want to introduce that and then see if we can get more information on that.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Jane and see
And
if we can line
and
it
I'll
up for
send you
future.
the presentation. It's really not for broad distribution, but I think
Forward it to
for
the
our
council,
council, yeah.
And did you say somebody from the watershed district was there?
No.
Oh, no, okay.
I don't think so. Medina and Orno, and then the Waters Association people were there.
Okay.
It was a Zoom call, so I didn't see, the people that were on, but I don't think there was anybody from the Watershed District. I could be wrong.
Can you clarify that the numbers you threw out, was that per treatment or was that the
No,
combined?
well, all right, so
And like you said, I know that they're rough numbers.
yeah, these are rough numbers. So he said engineering is 12,000. That's to do sort of the determine the scope. And then phase one, he said, could be 83 to 134,000. Phase two would be TBD if you need it. But he did think that there would be two treatments. And so the total for the project, he had it
Okay.
ranging from 217 to 294.
Okay.
Just as, and again, this is an early rough estimate. I mean, I had heard numbers almost twice that, so
And that's why I asked,
to me, it
because I
was like,
have
hey,
two.
this is a bargain. But it's still a lot of money, I understand. But it's also our greatest natural resource, as far as the draw for our city, I think.
All right, anything else?
That's it.
Okay. A couple of updates from me. I think on the same day I met with the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District. I know I told you this, but it was in the conference room here, and they wanted to give, James, the executive director, wanted to give an update on what they're thinking about for Long Lake as well, the city of and the lake. They are going, long story short, they're going to arrange with their city administrator to have a meeting probably in the spring. We're probably going to do a workshop with maybe an hour, even 2 hours, in which they want feedback from us as to what our commitment is, how interested are we in this project. And it's a project they've been talking about for many years, I think, since you've been on the council, of addressing runoff that occurs from essentially Holbrook Park and kind of the creek by Holbrook Park through the business district, industrial district, all the way down and into the lake. And that's amongst the highest that they have in their district is the runoff, and with the bad things in the runoff, essentially a variety of things. So they have some ideas in mind to address that. It is an expensive project. They would probably look to have some sort of city commitment, but they have creative ways of doing it in ways that may improve our city. Talked about even maybe the creek could be it pretty much goes this way. It could be rerouted or could have some beautification along it or walking paths or water features or all that kind of stuff so they can make it kind of doctor it up a bit. So more to come on that. Just want to give you a heads up that we'll probably have a work session to discuss that and give feedback. And it seems like we're getting a little bit closer, but it's also a lot of money and money that probably we haven't identified a funding source from the city for. So we'll have to discuss that and see how that plays into it. So that was the watershed district. And Janet Schaefer was there as well, by the way, representing the Waters Association.
She was also on this call. Just so
So
you
she had a busy day that day. Tomorrow morning, I'm having breakfast with Congresswoman Morrison, along with other mayors in her district, just to get an update from her from the federal level, what's going on in Washington, D.C. So let me know if you have any feedback you want to pass on to our congressional representative. Other than that, nothing else major to report on my end. Councilmember Qualley.
John will like this, nothing for me.
Wow. Wow. All right, City Administrator Wecky.
I wanted to give council a few updates as far as it pertains to fire. Today, Maggie and I went over to the DMV over in Wayzata, and we've started the title transfers to the Shoreline Fire Department, so I'm very excited about that. Also, I wanted to give an update when you were mentioning the email addresses. Currently, there is a new Shoreline Facebook page. The Long Lake Fire Department Facebook page currently has a title of Shoreline. We will have to wait 60 days, I believe. I had said for that to be changed back to Long Lake Fire Department. And whether or not we decide to keep that Facebook page live or not, we will discuss at a later date. But right now, Shoreline Fire Department does have its own social media presence. Last week,
I was wondering how that was going to work, because I know Long Lake Fire page has many followers, and I thought there was maybe a talk about just changing the name of that to Shoreline Fire since it had the majority. That was, you guys said
They
not to do
had
that.
done that, and then
yeah, they had
something else.
There was just a lot of loopholes and such, and I think
Okay.
as far as also like changing locations or whichever. So right now it still says the Long Lake Fire Department page still says Shoreline Fire, but they brought it all back to all the Long Lake Fire pictures, and personally I'm not a fan of that.
Right.
Because I think that causes a little bit more confusion. They did mention on there that Shoreline has its own Facebook page and directs people to the new page. And so for a while, until residents are familiar with the new page, we would keep it, but it will change back to the Long Lake Fire Department name in about 60 days, probably 45 days.
And we'll maintain some sort of archive site or something for Long Lake Fire.
We're
I
gonna
think-
figure out
I
something.
think there was interest expressed to do that.
Correct, and we're just trying to find the best avenue.
Given that the Relief Association owned that Long Lake Fire .org
Yes.
site, I wonder if that could be repurposed to somehow be used as their archive. I don't know.
So-
We were never involved in that site. It was independent,
So
and, yeah.
Okay.
part of the Shoreline Transition Fund. Last week, possibly the week before, I attended the Ellers Conference, which was extremely interesting. I got some information on legislative updates and some information on bonding and the process that we'll probably be using shortly for street improvements. And then big news for our city. City staff completed our 2025 annual audit last week. So Abdo has all the information. They're going to be presenting to council probably in a month or so. We have to wait. All the para information isn't ready yet. So we finished our audit before all the documentation's ready to hit final. So there's a couple things that they need to wait on from other organizations before they can present it to council. And they'd asked if we wanted to present it prelim, and I said it wasn't necessary. We could wait until the last bit of information was available. So they should be here in March or April for that presentation. But that's all I have.
Nice, thank you.
Yes.
Jeanette?
I don't think I really have anything. Thank you. No,
That's
just
okay.
focusing on office moves and continuing the great records retention project of 2026. This one might go down in history for me, honestly. It's a big one. But yes, Amanda is fully settled in her office and off the front desk. Also working on getting our positions posted. We had to kind of focus on getting council packet out the door as first priority last week, but
And the
the
audit.
positions are, and the audit, yes, exactly, and a little of the move, but yeah, we're up and running, and I should have those job ads. One of them's online and live, the other will soon to follow tomorrow, so getting there.
Great. Good updates. Thanks for the organization of all of our records and everything else back there. All right. So our next meeting is on Tuesday, March 3rd, potentially a work session as well.
Oh, and my apologies, actually, I did forget, I probably will not be at the next meeting. I am mom sitting. My mom had knee surgery, so doing a little overnight babysitting while my dad is out of town. So I will not be at the next meeting. Apologies.
All right.
Yeah, go
Well,
easy
hopefully
on
that
me.
goes well.
Go easy on me.
All right. More than understandable. All right. Unless there's an objection, I'll adjourn the meeting by general consent.